Hello and welcome to A Russell Reads. Today we have Russian Roulette by May Frater. Let's see. Who could guess that one brush of a fingertip over a shimmering soul string could flip your world upside down and inside out? 19-year-old Helena's life changes when her spirit enters the angel realm in search of her father, but things don't go as planned. Against her guardian angel's warnings, she binds her soul to a vampire, a creature she thought only existed in horror movies. Lucius has spent his immortality looking for the monsters who killed his sire. The last thing he needs is to be vulnerable because of a bond with a reckless girl. Yet, he sees how he can turn this to his advantage. Believing that Helena possesses great power, he plans to use her against the council as a bargaining chip. When Helena meets the gorgeous and also terrifying vampire with whom she's now stuck sharing an emotional bond, she realizes that her life will never be the same. Despite fighting against Lucius's manipulative ways, she can't deny their attraction. As their desire for each other intensifies, she needs to know if she can trust him. After all, her life and soul are on the line. And here is our excerpt from the prologue. A shiver induced by the stone wall ran through Helena. Her heart kicked into the next gear when she noted the restraints around her wrists. She struggled, tugging at the unforgiving shackles time and time again. "Looks like she's finally awake," someone said in a rough voice. "Then get on with it," another replied. She whipped her head around in search of the voices. The sudden action blurred her vision, causing her to squint. A low wattage light bulb at the end of the room exposed crates and stacked boxes. A bald man sat at a table, his legs crossed at the heel, whilst his beefy hands held the local newspaper. The second man pushed away from the grimy wall, sauntering toward her. His unnerving grin revealed a set of elongated canines. A breath caught in her throat. "Aren't you a tad bit young to be working for Alexander?" he asked. A deep frown creased her face while her attention darted between her captors. She didn't work for Alexander, nor did she ever want to see him or Lucius again. The stranger stopped a foot away from her. Dark, greasy hair clung to his scalp in thinning streaks. A few strands separated at the front, containing his heavy-lidded eyes. He reached out, grabbing her hair with a sharp twist, and lifted her head to meet his narrowed eyes. "I asked you a question, human." Her nose wrinkled in disgust. His breath, a mixture of cheap tobacco, beer, and something else, caused her stomach to churn. Panic will not solve anything, she thought. Yet her heart ignored her rationalism. "I don't work for him," she said. Surprised, her voice came out unshaken. He waved at her thin shirt and smart trousers. "We saw you leaving his club looking like this." Helena fought the urge to roll her eyes. If he'd been inside, he would have known Alexander's staff didn't wear uniforms. Well, the bouncers did. This is what anyone would wear to an interview. His eyes flared with a light gray glow, and she instantly regretted her snappy tone. She flinched under his menacing stare, which made her think of a glowering 2-year-old she used to babysit. The kid always shot daggers her way if she didn't give him candy. "You listening?" He let go of her head with a shove as he shouted at her. Helena's head dunked, encouraging the faint ache to blaze to a full-blown headache. "I think I hit her harder than I thought." "Rick," the companion set his newspaper on the table. "If you can't get anything out of her, I can." Helena figured the one who ran the operation was not Rick. His literate friend held an authoritative confidence the man in front of her lacked. She imagined Rick struggling to read a novel by Tolstoy. The image alone made her lips twitch upward. "What are you smiling about? Don't you understand what's going on?" Rick snapped. She glared at him. Arguing wouldn't help, but her mouth lost its filter. "Should I?" Her left cheek exploded with a burning sting as he backhanded her across the face. Automatically, she moved to rub the pain away and realized with a sickening feeling what situation she was in. Chained to a wall with 2 unknown men in a dingy room. As a dull ache settled into her arm, she bit her lower lip to suppress her bitter tongue from bringing more trouble. Rick leant in and peered into her face. His lips hovered next to her ear. "Let's see how much you know." He grabbed the sides of her head, forcing her to look at him. When their eyes locked, he grinned. Helena struggled, screaming, "Let go!" "Calm down, human." His harsh tone switched to a soothing melody. Right on cue, her body relaxed at his command. His glowing eyes became the center of her universe. Anything he said would be a binding instruction. Instead, she screamed, fighting his overpowering control, but nothing happened. Why couldn't Lucius influence me like this, and this idiot can? Are you paying attention? Yes. Will you obey my commands? Flat and emotionless, she answered him in an instant. Yes. Leaning in to the point that their noses almost touch, Risk asked his golden question. Do you work for Alexander? No. The gray glow in his eyes intensified, causing her to feel like she was floating. Her wrists throbbed, the metal cut deeper into her skin, and a groan escaped her. Do you know Lucius? Yes. The vampire's fingers dug into her jaw, and she winced. Where is he? What do you know about him? Russian roulette. He wanted me to undo the link. The silent partner sprang from his chair, knocking it over as he rushed to his feet. What kind of link? Words failed her as she fought through her jumbled mix of emotions. Rick jerked her head backwards and hissed, "Answer his question." I'm not sure it was an accident. In his frustration, Rick shook her. I'll suck you dry if you don't give me some proper answers. His partner pulled out a phone, typing something on the smooth glass screen. She doesn't have much information, but she can be useful in other ways. Rick trailed his finger along her arm, inching his way closer to his jugular. Can I play then? His influence on her dropped, and Helen glared at the side of his greasy head. You can feed, but nothing else. We may be able to catch a decent price for her later. And that has been your excerpt from Russian Roulette. Make sure you come back to meganorussell.com next week for more of O. Russell Reads. And thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.